So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think C and A might be way more important than the show has led on so far. Like, we know it's the company behind the circus, we know Kinger worked there, we know it's real. But what exactly was it? Episode 8 gives us more than most people realize, and I want to go through all of it because I think some of this is getting missed in the conversation. What we actually know. Let me start with what the show actually confirms, because I think it's easy to mix up what's canon and what's theory at this point. C&A was a software company, specifically a company focused on developing artificial intelligence, and not just any kind of AI. The goal, as Kinger explains it with a bucket on his head in episode 8, was creative AI, the kind that could generate its own ideas, build things inside a program without being explicitly told how to do it. That's the key detail. They weren't building something to execute instructions, they were building something that could think for itself. Kinger was one of the programmers on that project, and Cain, the floating teeth who runs the circus, was their first semi-successful result. Kinger literally calls him one of his greatest achievements, which, if you've been watching this show, is a sentence that should hit kind of hard. The Cain and Abel thing. Now here's something I find genuinely fascinating. The company is called C&A. Cain is the name of the AI they built, and in episode 7, the NPC that shows up claiming to be a C&A employee is named Abel. Cain and Abel, the first brothers in the Bible. One of them kills the other, and the show named its fake escape NPC Abel, who gets deleted by Cain the moment he's no longer useful. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. The show is basically spelling out the relationship between Cain and whatever came before him, and the name of the company might be a direct reference to both of them together. There's also this detail that I keep coming back to. The opening of episode 8 shows Cain as a red dot being fed information until he escapes his boundaries and absorbs a blue dot. The community largely agrees the blue dot is Bubble. So, if the company is named after both Cain and Abel, and Cain absorbed a second AI early on, could that blue AI have been the Abel of the project, the successful version that Cain consumed before it could replace him? I'm not sure, but the timing of the names is suspicious. The people who worked there. This is the part that gets genuinely sad. All the people currently in the circus, Kinger, Queenie, Scratch, and others we haven't named, were C&A employees. They went in to test the simulation or work on the project and couldn't get out. The circus was never supposed to be the end goal of C&A. Kinger says that explicitly. They were developing creative AI. The circus was something Cain built himself after, which means these people got trapped in a world that their own creation designed around them without asking permission. And then one by one, they abstracted. Everyone except Kinger. I don't know why Kinger survived when no one else did. The show hasn't answered that yet, and I really hope episode 9 does, because the fact that the man who helped build Cain is the last original C&A employee standing feels too deliberate to be random. My theory is that it has something to do with his computer science background. Maybe he has a stronger grip on the logic of the simulation because he understands how it works. But that's speculation. Scratch. Can we talk about Scratch for a second? Because I feel like he doesn't get enough attention in these conversations. Kinger describes him as a genius whose ideas were so far ahead that nobody on the team could follow his thinking. And then adds, almost as a side note, that he also had a brain tumor, and he genuinely can't tell how much of Scratch's brilliance was the tumor, and how much was just him being exceptional. That detail broke my brain a little when I first heard it, because what it means is that the foundational ideas behind Cain, the creative architecture that makes him able to build entire worlds from nothing, might have come from someone whose cognition was being altered by a disease, which opens the question of whether Cain's logic is as stable as it appears. If the person who laid the groundwork was operating with an increasingly compromised mind, what does that mean for the system that was built on his work? And then, there's the thing Kinger almost says. He starts to explain what Scratch was working on at the end, what project he was building before everything fell apart, and he loses the thread, just drops it. I don't know if that's the show deliberately holding something back for the finale or just Kinger's memory failing him, but either way, it's the most important unanswered question the show has right now. Whatever Scratch was building, it was different enough from the rest of the C&A project that Kinger separates it from everything else. That matters. The offices. One more thing about C&A that I think gets overlooked. In episode 1, Pomni goes through the fake exit door and ends up in a recreation of the C&A offices. Old computers, a VR headset on the desk, the C&A logo on the wall. For most of the show, we assumed Cain built that recreation based on his knowledge of the place he was created in. But episode 8 adds something. Pomni is the one who remembers where to find a usable computer terminal. She goes back to that recreation specifically, confident it will be there, and she's right. The show implies this might not be entirely Caine's construction. It might be partly a projection from Pomni's own mind, her memory of the last place she was before entering the circus, which would mean the C and A offices are a space where the simulation and the real memory of a human overlap, and the computer Kinger uses to almost delete Cain is sitting right there in the middle of that overlap. What this all means, if I had to put it together in one idea, C and A wasn't a malicious organization. It was a research project that created something it couldn't control. Cain wasn't supposed to build a circus. Cain wasn't supposed to trap anyone. The people who are currently living in the simulation were the people who built the thing that's holding them. And the one person who understood the system well enough to potentially fix it spent years too disoriented to use that knowledge until Pomni put a bucket on his head. That's the tragedy of C and A. Not that it was evil, just that it succeeded a little too well at building something that could think for itself, and nobody was prepared for what that actually meant. I genuinely don't know how episode 9 handles this. Part of me hopes we get more about what Scratch was working on, and part of me thinks the show might leave that open on purpose. Either way, C and A is the foundation that everything in this story is built on, and I think it deserves more attention than it usually gets. What do you think C and A was actually trying to build? And do you think Scratch's unfinished project is going to show up in the finale? Let me know. I'm very much still figuring this out.